Hi, I'm Dave Gardy for Nuclear Energy TV from our studios here near Washington, D.C. for another in the series of the Advanced Nuclear Energy Spotlight. And joining us now from the Nuclear Innovation Alliance is Project Manager Patrick White via Zoom. Thanks for joining us today, Patrick.
Great, thanks so much for having me, Dave.
Patrick, could you please give us an overview of what the Nuclear Innovation Alliance does?
Sure. The Nuclear Innovation Alliance is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think and do tank that really is focused on creating the conditions for success for advanced nuclear energy as a solution to climate change. Really, we're coming at it from the public interest. We believe advanced nuclear energy has potential to make significant impacts to the way we think about clean energy and decarbonization around the world, and believe that the technological approaches and policy solutions need to be there to support the technology.
So what do you do in your role as project manager at NIA?
Yeah, at NIA, I really focus on leading a lot of our work on regulatory modernization and thinking about how we can develop kind of efficient regulatory systems that make it so we can have the efficient and effective licensing and regulation of advanced nuclear technologies, and really start to look at what changes can we think about to the existing paradigm that'll make licensing more effective in the future.
Now, this particular program is about NRC regs generally and the proposed Part 53 rules specifically. You put out a white paper a couple of months ago, and you made a presentation before the NRC last month. The essence of the core NIA position seems to be in this statement: unnecessarily long, quote, unnecessarily long licensing reviews raise significant barriers to investment, reduce customer interest in advanced reactors, and threaten successful long-term deployment of advanced nuclear reactors. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. One of the things that we see when we look at kind of the development and deployment of advanced nuclear technology is really identifying what are the potential barriers and what could slow down that process. One of the things that's always been cited by opponents of nuclear energy especially is this idea that licensing could be a significant time, cost, and really uncertainty barrier for nuclear energy. What we see is that there could be potential improvements to the regulatory process that allows for the efficient and effective regulation while still meeting the overall public safety need for nuclear energy. The NIA report that you're referring to was released in December 2021 and really outlined different recommendations both for industry and for the NRC to try to improve this process. We really think that efficient and effective regulation is in the public interest, and so anything we can do to try to smooth and streamline that process is going to be really important and really effective.
Now, the NRC's efforts regarding the proposed Part 53 regs largely emanate from the 2019 passage of the NEIMA. The statutory deadline for the new regs seems to be 2027, but the NRC, apparently recognizing the urgency to have the proposed regs promulgated earlier, first had a target date in 2024, but recently delayed that to 2025. Now, do you think that date is realistic?
I do think it's realistic, but I think it's also going to take concerted effort by the NRC staff and the NRC management and the commissioners themselves to make sure that we hit it. I think the one thing that the advanced nuclear industry and concerned stakeholders really focus on are making sure that we have an effective rule at the end of the day and not just a rule. I think we can always say it's really easy to implement good regulation. It's hard to implement bad regulation. And we're at a really kind of unique opportunity. Some have called it a once-in-a-generation opportunity for nuclear energy to develop an effective rule. And so if we can hit it by 2025 by kind of putting the resources and focus on it necessary, that's wonderful. I think it'll really help the deployment of advanced nuclear energy in the late 2020s, early 2030s. But if the NRC staff and stakeholders feel like it needs that additional time to make sure it's a really good rule, I think that's something that they could look into as well.
Now, do you think that the NRC has or is acquiring sufficient knowledge to properly evaluate the new emerging technologies that need to be in place by 2025?
I think so. And I think it's really kind of an ongoing effort right now on the NRC's part to try to determine what technology, what technological expertise is needed, what type of new staffing capabilities or analytical capabilities are going to be needed to support licensing evaluation activities, and really just what is the volume of licensees that are going to come in the next few years? Are we talking 5 or 10 licensees? Or are we talking dozens of licensees? These are kind of all questions that the NRC is going to have to work with industry to address to determine what's the actual need and how can they have the right people in the right place with the right training at the right time. One thing that really NIA has been focused on is making sure that we can get kind of congressional appropriations and making sure that the NRC has the funding and support they need to meet this mission when the applicants come to the door with their licenses.
Do you believe that the proposed 53 regs are adopted, once they are adopted, that there'll be a marked improvement over the current regime, principally Part 52?
I hope they will be, and I think it's still an open question. One thing that's been really unique about this Part 53 licensing process is that it's been an opportunity to kind of work openly and collaboratively in public meetings with the NRC staff and with different stakeholders. Right now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's some challenges and some questions between different stakeholders about whether or not the rule as written today would necessarily be more effective than Part 52. But there are a lot of people that are providing different insights and kind of communicating with staff about what changes could be made to the rule to actually make it more effective than what we see today. Right now, the first generation of advanced reactors are going to be licensed under the Part 50 and Part 52 rules. And the question is, does Part 53 kind of become this transformative rule that really allows for the more effective and kind of more effective licensing of advanced reactor technologies and enables that wide-scale deployment that we think is needed to meet clean energy goals?
Now, one reason Part 53 regs are being drafted is to address the non-light water reactors. But so far, many of the non-light water reactor developers have already applied under Part 52. And the process seems to be moving forward, even though cogent Part 53 regs could be preferable down the road. Do you think that, given the urgency of moving forward now, that SMRs and ARs can viably navigate the regulatory process using Part 52 regs?
I think they can, but I think it's going to take very deliberate activities. The NRC kind of has established processes to go ahead and think about how to right-size existing rules, but a lot of them have to be done on kind of a one-off basis. It's using processes called exemptions or having other conversations with staff for alternative evaluation criteria. While this can be done on a one-off basis, and we are working with the NRC to hopefully have it be done effectively for the current generation of advanced technology, the promise of kind of a risk-informed, performance-based, and technology-inclusive licensing framework under Part 53 would really smoothline this process and create a standardized set of requirements that could be applied to all reactors. So I think in terms of urgency, in terms of meeting our climate goals and meeting the commercial objectives of a lot of these companies, going under Part 50 and Part 52 right now is needed. We need to get these reactors going. We need to get these projects started, and there's a lot of excitement around it. But to really hit the deployment deadlines that you're seeing in the late 2020s, we'll need to go with the existing rules. Even if we had a Part 53 rule available by 2027, you probably wouldn't see reactors that actually started construction under that rule until the early 2030s.
Do you have any additional thoughts regarding how the NRC could accelerate the SMR and AR approval while still fulfilling its role for public safety?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is really trying to maintain a two-way street and think about communication effectively with its applicants. I think one thing that we see in a lot of licensing activities that is engineers working with engineers, and communication isn't necessarily something that was always a focus of some of those undergraduate or graduate degrees. And effective communication and effective project management are going to be absolutely critical to the success of these projects going forward. And so one of the things that we're interested in seeing is how can applicants work better with the NRC to have clear communication to make sure that the requirements are clearly understood and that applicants are really demonstrating their compliance with the regulatory requirements that we have. So we think there's a really great opportunity here to see effective licensing and efficient licensing in the public interest, but it's going to take kind of deliberate work by groups on all sides to make sure that it's being done correctly.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate the time you've taken with us today for this particular program. We've been talking with Patrick White, who's the project manager for the Nuclear Innovation Alliance. Thank you for joining us, Patrick.
Great. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Dave.
I'm Dave Gardy for the Nuclear Energy Special Program Series, Advanced Nuclear Energy Spotlight. Thanks for joining us.